So I'm really excited about this series, Indian Education for All Across the Continent. This series will take place from 4 to 5 on this very link every single time on the third Tuesday from tonight through May. We won't have one in June because it'll be so late and you will all be on your summer breaks and hopefully enjoying yourselves immensely. So we will only have it through May. We do have a sign-in sheet. Please make sure if you would like professional development units to click on that link in the chat. Joan will post it a few times throughout the webinar so that you can have access to that information. And please be aware, this series is happening because of you, because of the feedback that we give. So at the end or near the end, we'll also post a link for the I'm going to turn my little doorbell off here so that doesn't continue. Anyhow, so your feedback matters, even if you're not getting professional development units. Please give us your feedback, and it helps us develop the very best in professional development for you. These sessions are, as I mentioned before, hopefully they will be highly participatory. So please make sure to think about questions, think about ways that you would like to interact with our presenters each time. We will have 10 full minutes for discussion, and this is just such a great opportunity for you to, mine our incredible presenters for their knowledge and their experiences. So just wonderful opportunities there. So this is part of our Indian Education for All Tuesdays. Right now we have first and third Tuesdays. Our first Tuesdays, we have Energize, which is an Indian Education for All monthly gathering. We have prizes, we have games, and we'll have a model curriculum for you to get introduced to, and we'll be kind of slowly covering all of the essential understandings throughout that. So if you haven't joined us yet, that's again at 4 o'clock on first Tuesdays, same Zoom link. So please make sure that you join us for the next one in October. So without much more about housekeeping, I would love to introduce our wonderful presenter this evening, Willie Tailfeathers. She's been teaching for 27 years, people. She's amazing. She comes to us from Browning, and she is Blackfeet. And please take it away, Miss Tailfeathers.
Wow, hope I live up to the hype. Okay, so I wasn't sure what to expect from this. So I was just told it would be IEFA language arts. So I picked a story, and it's called Roadrunner's Dance by Rudolfo Anaya. And looking at my essential understandings, it reaches essential understanding number 2 and 3. Number 2 says, just as there's a great diversity among tribal nations, there's great diversity among individual American Indians as identity is developed, defined, and refined by entities, organizations, and people. There's no generic American Indian. And 3 is the ideologies of the native traditional beliefs and spirituality persist into modern day life as tribal cultures, traditions, and languages are still practiced by many American Indian people and are incorporated into how tribes govern and manage their affairs. Additionally, each tribe has its own oral histories, which are as valid as written histories. These histories predate the discovery of North America. And those are the essential understandings that this story hits. It is not a Blackfeet story. I didn't have that much time. It's a Southwest Indian one. It's a desert, talks about desert woman and how the Roadrunner came to be. So the way I read stories is I'll read the title, or I'll read the pages, and then I will show the picture, if that's okay. And the genre is a folk tale, which, as we know, is a story from our history. Okay, so, and as I read, I incorporate the Blackfeet language into it. This story is perfect for the animals, and there's so many animals. It's a rich language. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and start. Roadrunner's Dance, and his speak seek Sina, which is snake, as he slithered out of his hole by the side of the road. He bared his fangs and frightened a Nisuhkua, a family walking home from the cornfield. The Nina threw her basket full of corn in the air. The Bukaks froze with fright. So Nina is the head of the family. In this case, it's the mother. The Bukaks is children. Nina, the children called, and the father came running. So Nina, father. Speak, Sina threatened. Come on, buksabut, the Nina said. So he's saying, come here. And the Nisukua took another path home. So the family went a different way. I am king of the road, Sina, the snake boasted. No one may use the road without my permission. So that evening, the Matapiks, the people of the village, gathered together and spoke to the Nasa, the elders. So this is the first page. I don't know if you can see it. Get close. So there's the Biksi threatening all the Bukaks, the children. We are afraid of being bitten by Biksi Sina, they protested. He acts as if the road belongs only to him. The Nasa agreed that something should be done. So the following morning, they went to sacred Mistakiks, the sacred mountain, where the desert Aki lived, the desert woman. She had created the desert animals, so surely she could spumokit. She could help. Please do something about the Biksiksina, the Nasa said. He makes visiting our neighbors and going to our fields impossible. He frightens the Bukaks. Desert Aki thought for a long time. She did not like to interfere in the lives of the Matapiks and the animals, but she knew something must be done. Have a solution, she finally said. So there's the Matapiks meeting with the Desert Aki, the desert woman. Dressed in a flowing gown, she traveled on a summer cloud across the desert to where Biksiksina slept under the shade of a rocky ledge. You will let Matapiks know when you are about to strike, desert woman said sternly. And so she placed a sistuana, a rattle, on the tip of Biksiksina's tail. Now you are Sistawana, Biksiksina, rattlesnake. When anyone approaches, you will succeed. Sorry. Sistawana, you will rattle a warning. This way they will know when you are nearby. Convinced she had done the right thing, Desert Aki walked on the rainbow back to her home in sacred Mistakiks, the sacred mountain. However, instead of inhibiting Sistawana Biksiksina, the Sistawana only made him more threatening. He coiled around, shaking his tail and baring his fangs. Look at me, Sistawana Biksiksina said to the animals. I rattle and hiss, and my bite is deadly. I'm king of the road, and no one may use it without my permission. So there's that little one. And then there's the bigger one. See how big he is? He's purple and he's scary. You can see his fangs. Now the animals went to Desert Aki to complain. Hoo, hoo, Sipastu said. Can you guess who Sipastu is? Owl. So greeting Desert Aki with respect. Since you gave Sistowana Biksiksina his rattle, he is even more of a bully. He will not let anyone use the road. Please take away his fangs and his Sistowana. What I give, I cannot take away, Desert Aki said. When Sistowana Biksiksina comes hissing and threatening, one of you must make him behave. She looked at all the animals assembled. The animals looked at one another. They looked up, they looked down, but not one looked at Desert Woman. So, I'm too timid to stand up to Sistawana Biksiksina, Quail whispered. He would gobble me up, Ninamski cried and darted away. Ninamski is lizard. We're all afraid of him, Sipastu admitted. Desert Aki smiled. Perhaps we need a new animal to make Sistawana Biksiksina behave, she suggested. Yip, yip, Abisi barked. Yes, yes. Abisi is coyote. If you spomokit together, we can make a guardian of the road, Desert Aki said. Remember, spomokit means help. I will form the body and each of you will bring a gift for our new friend. So in here, in the picture, you see Beta, the eagle. There's Sipastu, the owl. BC is the coyote. He's kind of in the fold of the book. Awagasi is the deer. And Desert Aki is the woman. Oh, and then there's quail, and we'll just call quail Bixiksina, bird. Okay. She gathered clay from the sacred Mistakiks, the sacred mountain, and wet it with ohki from a desert spring, that's water. Working quickly but with great care, she molded the body. He needs slender legs to run fast, said Awagasi. He took Naduka, slender branches from a mesquite bush, and handed them to Desert Aki. So he took 2. She pushed the sticks into the clay, and a long tail to balance himself, said Blue Jay, Bixiksina. Ka, ka, like mine, croaked Maistu, and that's Raven. And he took long Sixinatsi feathers from his tail. He must be strong, cried the mighty Beta, the eagle, and he plucked dark feathers from his wings, and have a long beak to peck at rattlesnakes. Sistawani Bixiksina, said Heron, offering a long, thin reed from the marsh. He needs sharp awapspiks, said Abisi, offering 2 shiny stones from the riverbed. As Desert Aki added each new gift to the clay body, a strange new Bixi took shape. So there's them offering their gifts, and she's adding them to that strange new animal. I love the colors on here. It's very vibrant. What is your gift? Sipastu asked Desert Aki. I will give him the gift of dance. He will be agile and fast, she answered. I will call him Roadrunner. Then she breathed life into the clay. Roadrunner opened his eyes. He blinked and looked around. What a strange Bixiksina, the animal said. Roadrunner took his first steps. He tottered forward and then backward and then forward and fell flat on his face. The animals sighed and shook their heads. This Bixiksina was not agile and he was not fast. He could never stand up to Sistawane Bixiksina. He was too awkward. Disappointed, the animals made their way home. Desert Aki helped Roadrunner stand, and she told him what he must do. You will dance around Sistawane Bixiksina and peck at his tail. He must learn he is not king of the road. Me? Can I really do it? Roadrunner asked, balancing himself with his long tail. You only need to practice, Desert Aki said. Roadrunner again tried his legs. He took a few steps forward and bumped into a tall cactus. Practice, he said. He tried again and leaped over a sleeping horned toad. So there's her breathing life into the 6 beak, see, the black bird. He tried jumping over a desert spoopy, a desert tortoise, but he landed right on her back. The surprise spoopy lumbered away and Roadrunner crashed to the ground. I'll never get it right, he moaned. Ah, you will, Desert Aki said, again helping him to his feet. You need only to practice. So Roadrunner practiced. He ran back and forth, learning to use his skinny legs, learning to balance with his tail feathers. Practice, he said again, practice. With time, he was swirling and twirling like a bukaki, like a twister. And what the once awkward Bixiksina was now a graceful dancer. I've got it, he cried, zipping down the road, his legs carrying him swiftly across the sand. Thank you, Desert Aki. So there's him trying to jump over the spoopy. I like how they said she lumbered away. Use your gift to help others, Desert Aki said, and she returned to her abode on the sacred Mistakeeks, the sacred mountain. I will, Roadrunner called. He went racing down the road until his sharp Awapspix spied Sistawane Bixiksina hiding under a tall yucca plant. I'm king of the road. Sistawane Bixiksina hissed and shook his tail furiously. No one may use my road without my permission. The road is for everyone to use, Roadrunner said sternly. Who are you? I am Roadrunner. Get off my road before I bite you. Sistawane Bixiksina glared. I'm not afraid of you, Roadrunner replied. Ooh, scary. Roadrunner is brave. The Mutapiks, the people and the animals heard the ruckus and drew close to watch. Had they heard correctly? Roadrunner was challenging Sistawane Bixiksina. I'll show you. I am king of the road. Sistawane Bixiksina shouted, hissing so loud the desert mice trembled with fear. He shook his rattle until it sounded like a thunderstorm. Ooh. He struck at Roadrunner, but Roadrunner hopped out of the way. Stand still, Sistawane Bixiksina cried and lunged again. But Roadrunner danced gracefully out of reach. Sistawane Bixiksina coiled for Nidukska one more attempt. He struck like lightning, but fell flat on his face. Roadrunner had jumped to safety. Now it was Roadrunner's turn. He ruffled his feathers and danced in circles around Sistawane Bixiksina. Again and again, he pecked at the bully's tail. Like a whirlwind, or like a bukaki, he spun around Sistawane Bixiksina until the serpent grew dizzy. His awapspix crossed and his tongue hung limply out of his mouth. You win, you win, Sistawane Bixiksina cried. You are not king of the road, and you must not frighten those who use it, Roadrunner said sternly. So there's the Roadrunner dancing around Sistawane Bixiksina. And see how his eyes are crossed and his tongue is hanging out? I promise, the beaten Sistawane Bixiksina said, and quietly slunk down his hole. The Mutapiks, the people, cheered and praised the bird, the Bixiks. Now we can visit our neighbors in peace and go to our cornfields without fear, the elders proclaimed. And the Bukaks, the children, will no longer be frightened. Thank you, Roadrunner, the Bukaks called, the children, waving as they followed their parents to the fields. Then the animals gathered around Roadrunner. Yes, thank you for teaching Sistawane Bixiksina a lesson, Sipastu said. Now you are king of the road. Sa. Now there is no king of the road, replied Roadrunner. Everyone is free to come and go as they please. And the likes of Rattlesnake had better watch out because I'll make sure the road stays safe. So there's our animals praising the Roadrunner. We see Namski. We see Bixi. There's Spoopy. Ganeskina is the mouse. There's Sipastu the owl, BC the coyote. Oh, sorry, my book's kind of floppy. Yeah, and that's the end of the story. If I wanted to make it a thematic, which I more likely do, then I would bring in the regions, like the desert region versus our mountain region, because we live in the Mistakeeks, the mountains here. And yeah. So that kind of went faster than we thought. Is that okay?
So I have a couple of questions about the vocabulary. I loved that. I loved that the repetition, because I'm noticing that the more Blackfeet that I hear, just because of exposure, picking up, different words. What are some methods outside of the repetition within the book, how do you teach those words as you're teaching?
So what we do is we'll oftentimes, like from the beginning of school, we have these like pictures uh like Sakuma Peep is walking, the boy. The boy is walking. So we'll post these up on the board, and then the children will go up there and say like Imita, the dog. And we have words that would say the dog is smoking, and the so Bus Ayoka, the cat is sleeping. So we have all these posters or pictures that we go through, and we'll put them up on the board. And that's just a like a everyday thing that we do. And like you said, with repetition, the children get them, the bukaks, they start using them.
I was remembering the word for rattle because when we did our Indian boarding school series and had Kevin Kicking Woman, who is also Blackfeet, who is also nominated for one of the Teachers of the Year in Montana, which is so really just amazing and fabulous. And he had his rattle, and before he would play his rattle, he would say, wait, there are so many words, and it's the end of the day. He would say sistuwane.
Yeah.
Did I say that correctly? And so, I think what just can you give us a kind of a breakdown of what ELA you started talking about the thematic, like what does it look like when you sit down to start writing a unit so that it has your ELA standards and it has Indian Ed for All and it has your heritage language? What's your process like?
So with this one, we would talk about, like I said, like we have social studies and science first thing in the morning, and this is part of our Wonders story that came with them. I love these stories. There's so many native stories in them. But we do science and social studies. So that's when I would bring in the regions, like the mountain region, what's familiar about the climate here, what's different about the desert region, and just talk about the animals. Like we have birds here, they have birds there. Are they the same birds? Well, we have Beta, the eagle, but we don't have roadrunners up here. So we kind of compare and contrast the animals. And animals are probably the easiest Blackfeet words that the kids would remember because they're so visual.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about the like the Bonogamita, the horse. Do they have horses down there? Are they the same kind of horses, or maybe they're smaller? We talk about that. We talk about the plants. We have bear grass up here. Do they have bear grass down there? We have sweetgrass up here. Do they have sweetgrass down there? And then why not? Sweetgrass grows in a marshy area. Do they have marshes down in the desert? And so we do a lot of compare and contrast during social studies and science. The stories go so well with both social studies and science.
What type of cultural activities do you integrate?
So, and I love doing the rain sticks because rain
Tell
sticks
us about those. I'm not sure everyone would know what those are.
So a real rain stick is made from the arm of a saguaro cactus, and they take the branch, and then I think it dries, and then they drive the needles into the inside the thing, the branch, and then they fill them with pebbles, and they stop up the end, and as you tip it, it sounds like rain falling. So up here we don't have a saguaro cactus, so we use mailing tubes and toothpicks. And then we fill them with like dried peas, rice, maybe beans, just something to make that rain effect. And I did that with one group, and they really learned a lot from it. And then I had them keep it here for a while, and then they took them home. And of course it was rainy season by then. And I kept teasing them, who's shaking their rain stick? You got to stop. We're having too much rain. And that's I believe that's how it was used down there, is when they needed rain, then they do their dance and do their turn their rain stick during their dances.
I think we just had an example of a rain stick pop up. Carrie, would you like to show us and unmute so we can hear your rain stick?
Yes, please.
As a former music teacher, there are certain things that I just didn't want to give up, but this is my rain stick.
Perfect.
That's legit.
I thought I would never use that in the office. I'm so excited I could use it today. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you for sharing.
That's very cool. And how do you see you know, being in third grade, and I know that you have a progression of really amazing teachers, you know, starting in kindergarten that add language in all the time. Do you start seeing more natural language expression from your students in third grade?
Prior to COVID, it was amazing. They came in learning
Mm.
so much, and then COVID happened and everything was online, and we had some that would never get online, and you know, we couldn't make them.
Mm.
But this group they had last year and now this year, and they're picking it up fast.
Oh, that's really awesome. That is really cool. So do you, it sounds like you do a lot of thematic things with social studies, science, ELA. Do you find that integrating your curriculum provides a more a lasting learning, enduring learning in your students?
Yes, I do, because they're so hands-on and visual that the more I can bring it in other areas, then they're more likely to retain it. So like the posters on the board, you know, like the Boos Ioka, the cat is sleeping, you know, is the Bukax Ioka, you know, are the children sleeping? So then, you know, it just making it fun helps it stick. And so the more we can interact with them, then the more they learn and the faster they retain it.
How do you pick the books, you know, especially with picture books, because they are so rich with both the visuals and then you're giving the auditory repetition? How do you choose the books that you read?
Well, with the wonders, the stories are chosen for me.
Oh,
So
okay.
we add the language in, and like Mr. Westwolf, Art Westwolf, he comes in
Mhm.
and we do side by side teaching. And so he's right there with me. And as I need words, then he's right there to provide them.
Mr. Westwolf was at our best practices conference this last year, and I had the fortune of being able to sit in at least half of his session before I was pulled away to do conference things. But it was amazing, and I was recognizing some of the vocabulary about the animals because of what he taught us through a story. So really, you know, watching that language integration so naturally, I think is so powerful. And I love how it teaches me too, even though, you know, I'm not in the classroom, I don't have children, but I love having that modeled. And I thought you did a really wonderful job with that. But, you know, we have a wonderful group of educators here, and I'm offering an open invitation. Again, this is being recorded, so if you are reluctant about having your camera on, you're welcome to leave your camera off. But again, our recordings, I can almost guarantee you there people really self-select what they want to watch, and so I don't think you have to worry anything about, you know, your face being on screen. We would love to see your beautiful face. If you have anything that you would like to ask or contribute, please just go ahead and unmute. This is a much less formal than our previous webinars, because I really want us to start engaging in conversations with these wonderful teachers. So does anyone have anything they would like to jump on and ask?
Thanks, Willie, for being present today and for sharing with us. At a non-native school, I know that the Apsalica app for language is there, so I can know the pronunciation if I wanted to try to add in, you know, some kind of other language. But is there anything, does the Blackfeet have an app yet, or is there anything online that can be
We
used?
actually do have two apps. They're oh wait, I don't have them on my phone. I think my phone updated and it got rid of them because they weren't used for a while. But we do have 2 apps. They're called the Picani apps.
Okay.
There's that's what the app looks like. There's that.
Okay.
This one comes from BCC, the Blackfeet Community College. They actually developed that app. This
Cool.
one, the black one, Picani, is actually comes from Canada. So
Okay.
they're both Blackfeet. They're both correct. They're just a slightly different dialect. And then
Okay.
there's more, but these ones are free. You got to pay for the other ones, but these ones are free.
Right. And that's appropriate for me as to attempt to use a language as
Yes.
okay.
It's amazing because they'll just pronounce it for you. You could do a search for certain words.
Okay.
And I bounce between both apps, because like I said, they're not wrong, just a slightly different dialect.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Our colleague, Jay Eagleman, was with us, and he's at Rocky Boys, and he said, "Great job, Willie. I must attend to my grandson. The bus stop is a bit from my camp, and he will be in touch as he's doing some language series." And so, and then Matt Bell says, "Do you have any particular ways you include humor for language learning?"
Oh, goodness. I think that just comes naturally for me. It does. I don't try to, like, on my lesson plan, say at 10:05 I'm going to tell a joke. It just it just naturally comes. And the more the kids, like I said, the more that you can bring the humor in, the more likely they will be to remember it.
Hi, Willie. Thanks for reading that. Really enjoyed it, and I'm going to order a copy for our library here. But something that I know a lot of elementary teachers get hung up on when it comes to teaching books like this is they're afraid to teach it because they don't want to stumble over words. They're afraid of messing up, basically, or getting something wrong, and then they use that as an excuse to sometimes just not teach what they should, especially with essential understandings. What would you say, or what for any of us listening, could we say to our colleagues who feel kind of that hesitation to use a book with Indigenous language? I mean, I know the apps are out there, and that's what I try to tell teachers is, there are apps for that, and you can learn it alongside your students rather than just trying to always appear like you're the authority figure. You could just be a learner with them. But anything you could add that we could keep in our back pocket when we talk to our colleagues about Indigenous language?
That was something that I was really worried about when I first started, when way 25 years ago. Oh, God, I hate to admit that. But I just had to not be afraid. Mr. Westwolf was right there, and he was my resource, and I would say a word, and if I said it wrong, he's such a great teacher. He would just say it right. And I would, say, oh, I must have, listen for that. But mainly, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try. Even if you get it wrong, you're trying, you're speaking it. And that's the main thing, is we need more people speaking our language. And if you're not from here, or if you're from Rocky Boy, living here, or, vice versa, wherever, don't be afraid to try. There's tons of people out there that know more than they think. Yeah. And you just need to, like, pull that out of them. And, colors are easy. Numbers are easy.
Yeah. It's like, I know, learning the piano, you're going to hit wrong notes, and you're not afraid to do that or something. Right. And I try to tell teachers too, it's not really about you, is it?
No. Yeah.
It's not about you. It's about them. It's about the students. So, yeah, just kind of modeling that bravery, I think, too, like you said. So thank you so much.
And then one word that the kids absolutely adore is grasshopper. It's tsikatsi. Because long time ago, when we were, the native children were going to go trick-or-treating, they heard the non-native kids saying trick-or-treat. Well, to them, it sounded like tsikatsi. And so they went home and they were telling their family, we need to go do that. They're just saying grasshopper and they're getting candy. And so they ran out and they were saying ticketsy, ticketsy. And so they were getting candy for saying grasshopper to these at these houses. And when I share that with the kids, then I mean, they never forget it. So even, you know, something as silly as that, it sticks. Mr. Westwolf was doing, when we were online, he was doing animals and frog was one of them, Matsiik. And he said, does anybody know how to say frog? And I said, oh, I know. And he's like, what is it? And I said, Matsiik apisadusi. And I had 10 kids in here and all their eyes cut to me. And I'm sitting here like, what? And they're like, teacher, you said frog month when the frogs come out, April. So we all laughed about that. But yeah, we never forgot Matsiik. We never forgot frog after that. So yeah.
We have a comment from Zach Hawkins, Ixukapi. It's one of my favorite Blackfeet words. Would you be willing to teach us a few of the words? I'm really feeling like when you know, I have another language in my life that I don't speak except in very specific situations, but I know when I start to speak it and to read it, especially since it's from right to left rather than left to right, and so, you know, my brain, I can feel it in my brain that, you know, something is different is happening, and as I start to form the words in my mouth, it's very clumsy. You know, it's like my tongue has to find the place to go, even though I'm trying to read along and, you know, make it all work. But I really feel that this, like for all of us to practice saying a few words in a different language than what we're familiar with is really important for our brains. And my hope is that it connects our heart with our head and helps us be more open to, you know, other epistemologies and ontologies. And I was wondering, would you give us the pleasure of maybe teaching us a few words?
Sure, I would love to. So
and I'll keep my microphone off so you can hear me stumble, right? Like I'll be the I'll be the guinea pig. You can leave your mics off, and I'll be the one to start, you know, blubbering with my tongue.
So oki is hello.
Oki.
Oki. And if you say oki, that means water.
Oki.
Oki. Yeah, you just get that little guttural thing for
guttural.
water.
Okay.
Yeah, so oki is hi.
Oki.
Nistu nitaniku is my name is.
Nistu mitaniku asowa wa ni.
Ah. So oki nistu nitaniku ninamquis ginyaki. That's my name. My name is Thunderpipe Paint Woman.
I recognized Aki as woman.
Oki nistu nitaniku.
Oki nistu nitaniku.
Yeah, that's hello, my name is.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And is thank you, you know, often with cultures, we kind of assume that all of the words, you know, for niceties are the same, you know, meanings, etc. Is there a same, you know, thank you? How do you say thank you? Or is there a cultural context for gratitude in Blackfeet culture?
It's more like I appreciate you. Yeah, there's no thank you. Just like there's like if somebody says pass the salt, you know, there's no way to say pass the salt, but you could say give me gukit. Give me the salt. Yeah, so it's more like I appreciate you.
Okay. How about numbers? I've been, you know, I don't know anything about Blackfeet numbers. What would be a few, like 1 through 3?
Nidukska,
Nidukska,
naduka,
Naduka,
niukska.
Niokska. And so is the N, the sounds that come before, is that for numbers like before 10?
Yeah, before 10.
Okay,
And
interesting.
after 10, you would say Nazi gopatu.
Nazi go pictu.
You'd add that onto there.
Awesome. You have a beautiful compliment in the chat from a Miss Whitford. And she says, Willie is one of our outstanding teachers in our BNAS department, which is the Blackfeet.
Native American Studies.
Native American Studies. Okay. And we are fortunate to have her with us. Yes, absolutely. Does anyone else have any questions or any wonderings for Miss Tailfeathers? You can feel free to take yourself off chat or off mute. And if you would like to have your camera on, this is a wonderful opportunity.
Okay.
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 So Willie, do you want to go ahead and share one of your math lessons that you do with
Is that
the
allowed?
flash?
Jennifer, is that allowed?
Absolutely.
So I don't have a dice handy, but my kids will roll a dice, and let's say they roll a 4. So nisu. And then we would say gi and roll it again, naduka. So nisu, gi, naduka. Akanistu, so 4 plus 2 equals noi, which is 6. And that every child would get a dice, and then they'd roll that, and we get that routine down, and then we move that into multiplication and division. So then it would be nisu itawasanate naduka akanistu nanisu. So 8. 4 times 2 is 8. Yeah.
So the kids get really good at this. Just going in and being in the classroom with Willie. The kids were spot on, and what I love about that lesson is they help one another if they get stuck, and they're just they just like giving them hints. I mean, they work really well with one another when they're going through those math lessons and using the language. And it's just, a really good thing to see our kids, especially when it comes to math.
And one thing with our immersion kids, I always stress that we are nisukua, we're a family, and that families help each other. And so, like Leah said, during math, if somebody is having a little bit of trouble getting what numbers they want, then somebody is always there to help them. And sometimes their help is just telling them the answer. So we work on that, on having them, how to help, the steps involved, start at the beginning and walk them through it. But yeah, we're a nisukua, we're a family. So.
Thank you, Willie.
You're welcome. So say ides stinamastoki. Ides.
Ides.
Stinama.
Stinama.
Estoki.
Estoki.
That's teacher.
Wow.
Ides stinamastoki. So my kids, they're when they have to go to the bathroom, they have to tell me, teacher, can I go to the bathroom? So they have to say the whole thing in Blackfeet. Ides stinamastoki nachgipsim ochki. Oh, that's going to get water. Ides stinamastoki dakste tapulpa magapoyas is, can I go to the bathroom? And it sounds like a mouthful, but the kids can rattle it off just like you wouldn't believe.
That's fantastic. That is so fantastic. What a great way to incorporate culture. So a teacher, to recap a little bit, so a teacher who might be wondering, how do I do this? So they could get a story, and it doesn't even need to be, I mean, there are stories, available in the libraries that we have sent over the years, from OPI into the libraries, but I'm not sure if all of those are still there anymore. There's also the Indian reading series, and I'll start making a resource folder. I realized that I was remiss in making a resource folder, so I will make sure to share that at our next meeting, and make sure that we have resources with the app names and links to the apps and things like that. But sorry, I'm looking at all these words here, and I realize I'm going to need an app. So because with the captioning, so for our recorded videos, we have captioning, and we try to, or I try to match the language. So I may need a little assistance. I tried to write down the best I could by all the animals. But if a teacher is unsure, they could just get a story and then go to one of the language apps and maybe find just a few of the animals or numbers or the plants, and maybe research a few of those words. And what other advice would you have for a reluctant teacher?
Yeah, just get over the reluctance. Just put yourself out there and try. Teachers are the bravest people, because we get up in front of a group of new people every year. Sometimes if you're middle school, high school, every session, every period, you get new kids. And you would be surprised at how helpful the kids are. The kids know. I mean, they're so familiar and so comfortable. There's always kids that know. And
well, it sounds like one of the practices of a good teacher is to that humility, the practice of humility.
Yeah, and believe me, I'm humble. And in this Wonders book, there's this story is called Wolf. So all the animals, you have cow and a pig and a wolf. The axony and and it just goes through. And then there's stories from different cultures in there. You could still bring the language in, our language in there. There's Yoon and the jade bracelet. You could bring your words in there. I mean, you can put your language into any story. And that's when I first started with Mr. Westwolf 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that I started small. I started with the 3 little pigs, and I was putting the word Niukska in there, and I was so proud of myself. And then I learned pigs, axony. And then, I mean, it just snowballed from there. And Mr. Westwolf and I came up with all these, he helped me. I don't have them handy right now, but we made flashcards. And the kids that year got so good at it. We had flashcards with colors and numbers and, plants and animals. I mean, we had flashcards for everything. And the kids got really excellent at using those flashcards. And then we got a new writing system. And so we're redoing the flashcards using the writing system. So it's uniform throughout everybody.
It's a Pagani writing system?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it's really helpful. So I didn't grow up speaking Blackfeet, but being here and learning the system and learning the sounds, I can read it.
So it's phonetic?
Not really.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
there's rules for it.
So interesting. Well, we have just a few more minutes here. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? We have some amazing teachers and coaches joining us. And we're masters of wait time.
Hi,
Matt Bell.
quick question, one that maybe just popped into my mind. have you ever used like kind of that flourishy language art stuff that some English classes use, like poetry as like a method of language instruction, or for students to kind of demonstrate what they've learned?
So with with our reading series, there's poems that go with it. They don't translate that well into Blackfeet, like the mouse in the house, the Ganeskina in the Notoyas. Doesn't really rhyme. But yeah, that's something that we were wanting to work on, you know, letting the kids come up with their own verses and language, and I'd like them to illustrate it, which they moan and groan about, but yeah, that's something that we try.
There's another compliment in the chat, and I did not realize that she was here, from the amazing Marissa Spang, although I'm a little biased when it comes to Marissa Spang. She is an amazing Northern Cheyenne and Crow teacher who teaches in Lame Deer, and I was able to figure in epistemologies, axiologies, and ontologies, Marissa, so I hope you're proud of me. She got me started on thinking deeply about those topics. But well, I am just, this was delightful. And, you know, it's not every day that as an adult, after some challenging and wonderful things all mixed in today, to be able to sit down at the end of the day and have a storybook read with such love and humor and language. So that was really, really wonderful. So thank you very much. Joan Frankie has been putting the feedback survey. Again, if you joined us late, these feedback surveys, this is how we came up with this webinar series. This is the very first. We will be going every third Tuesday, same link, 4 to 5. Next month is Adrian Tailfeathers. You may recognize the last name. It will be math. The month after that will be Melody Small. She will be providing a science lesson for us. In December, it will be Dylan Huiskin, who was on earlier, and he is one of our teachers of the year from, I believe it was 2022. Somebody correct me if I'm not if I'm wrong, but anyhow, so he'll be presenting on social studies in December. We've got Scott Flatlip from Crow talking about health enhancement. He's been getting enormous press and recognition for some of the amazing things that he's been doing with his kids down in Crow. And we also have music. We've got CTE. We've got family and consumer science with Indigenous fashion shows. And so we've got a lot of wonderful programming coming up on these third Tuesdays. Please don't forget to join us on the first Tuesdays for Energize Indian Education for All. Monthly gathering. We've got games, we've got prizes, we've got Mike Jetty's jokes. So it'll be really fun, and I hope that you can join us. Please share that these are happening, and we'll be posting the recording links on our upcoming PD, or excuse me, our recorded PD page on our OPI Indian Education for All webpage. And 2019, okay, is when Dylan was our Teacher of the Year. Thank you, Zach. So please reach out should you have any questions at all. If you have questions about resources, Mike, Zach, and I have office hours now. And so, you know, we'll be publishing more about those. I believe we've actually put them on the website as well when we're available. Mine are 7:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Same Zoom link as this. So just jump on. You might see a little PowerPoint slide that says, hey, text me, I might be getting coffee, and I'll be right there because I might not hear the doorbell on Zoom. But anyhow, we are really excited with all of the upcoming offerings for you. And Yes, Mike Jetty wishes us all a happy American Indian Heritage Day. We have two coming up because we have a longer September. We've got 2 Fridays for American Indian Heritage Day. So really, really looking forward to hearing what you're doing for that. And we want to support you in any way that we can. And I will just say that this is really, really amazing to have you with us, Willie. And thank you so much. And I'm just surrounding you with so much love and support, considering your recent news. So thank you for your warrior self and showing up for us today. Thank you all so much. And we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your school year. And we can't wait to see you every first and third Tuesday.
Thank you for this opportunity.